Hey, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining Fett263 presents Fun with Saber Effects for Proffieboard. Let's see, I've got Sam. Hey, Sam. Hey, Meg Tooth. Thanks for joining tonight. Hopefully, we get a few more people in. So, I have a couple of just some style things. I had a couple questions during the week of some styles I was going to cover. I also saw a few posts. I can try to answer some of those questions. But if you have any questions on Proffieboard, on styles, on the editor, on my library, feel free to post them in the chat. And also have a couple updates on edit mode and OS 6. Still a lot going on, but we've had a lot of progress. Hopefully, you've seen some of the new stuff. There's actually some more new stuff probably later this week. Hoping to have that polished up and ready to give kind of another sneak peek. But thanks to anyone who's joining now. And if you're watching this on playback and you have a question you'd like me to answer for a future episode, just put it in the chat or message me through the channel. I like to try to cover specific style requests if I can. So let's see. So I've got you two in. I think Sam's looking at Proffieboard if I remember from someplace, and obviously Meg Tooth, we know you well. So one little bit of news. Frederick did, so forever I've been using the beta editor. Frederick actually finally moved the beta editor to the regular editor link. So anybody who hasn't used the any of the editors, the beta was around for a long time. It was essentially already running, but Frederick's moved it to the actual live link. So most of my older videos are always going to have the beta link. You can now use the regular style editor link. Let's see. Hey, Robert, thanks for joining. Captain Finesser. Oh, yeah, Sam, you're looking at the Crimson Dawn. I'm not as familiar with individual installers, so names sometimes slip my memory. I know more and more proffies are getting out there, and there's a lot more interest in it. But it's hard for me to keep track of everything. So one of the things that kind of came up, let me start with, I had some. So there was a little bit of homework for those who caught last week's episode. Brian Connor and Kim were able to mimic this effect. I'm still keeping the actual code hidden. Now, those who figured it out, that's fine. But this is actually related to something that's still in development. So this is kind of like a piece of a puzzle. So this is like the foundation of something else that I had in mind. But so last week at the end of the episode, I had put together a style, but I didn't show how it was built. And I just kind of left it almost like a homework assignment for anybody who's in. And two people messaged me, I believe only two. If anybody else did it and I didn't see it, I apologize. But they were able to mimic this pretty well. But it's a very specific effect. So the editor is going to run this on a loop. The real effect that was built and shown from last week actually depended on how you turned your hilt. And again, it's tied to something that doesn't exist yet, but this is kind of the precursor to it. But I wanted to recognize Brian and Kim for being able to figure that out. Anyone else who figured it out, great as well. But let's talk a little bit about some other styles. So one of the pieces that I was asked to cover is the is less than function. And essentially, that function actually opens the door for a lot of other functions. So I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of show. Hey, Chet, thanks for joining. Let's see. So that's not what I wanted. So this is what I wanted to start with. So if you're not familiar with functions, obviously a lot of my previous episodes have covered them. But essentially, functions just let you control the style, manipulate things. And there's typically two ways you're going to introduce a function into your styles. The first being in a mix, and the second being in an alpha layer. An alpha layer is a single color, so that if you wanted to do a single color, you would do an alpha layer. Essentially, it's a layer you would put over something else. And then functions are what controls how that visually shows, and there's a number of them. For the purposes of kind of breaking the ice on is less than, I'm doing it with a mix, but they essentially work similarly. So is less than is really, it's just a very simple function. What it's looking for is you're going to tell it something. So this is the function here, and essentially the first value is what it's going to look at, and the second value is what it either is going to be greater than or less than. And in Profi, if something, in terms of this, if something is greater, in this case, if something is greater than the value put in for V, it's going to return a 0. If or if it's less than whatever V, so if F is less than V, then it'll return a 32,768. And by putting it in a mix, what you're going to see is that it's going to return either red, so when it gets to 0, when this function returns 0, it's going to be red. When this function returns 32,768, it's going to return blue. So in this case here, actually I flipped that. I always do that with this. So right now we're less than this value. So as soon as I go above this value, and I see the chat going, let me just get this train of thought out of the way, and then I'll catch up on chat. So as soon as I submit this and go back here, now I'll have red. So that's, so the, if it's less, yeah, so no, if it is less than, it returns 32,768. If it's not less than, so if it's greater than, it returns the 0, which returns the red. So in understanding the function, that's essentially the main piece of it. But you can use this in a number of ways. But I see that chat got really long on me. Let me catch up with everybody. Sorry. We got some Profit questions. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Megtooth, and it's not even done with some more of the effects we're going to have coming. So it's never finished. But definitely, I haven't. You know, I don't use other boards, but I see videos that they put up of other boards, and you know, the boards can do great stuff, but it's not really an apples to oranges comparison. It's not a knock against any of the other boards, but they are essentially forget who I was chatting with about this not all that long ago, but if you think about it with Profi, because we're actually uploading a brand new OS every time you introduce a new style, it's essentially like a blank canvas, and Frederick, with all of his, you know, wisdom and knowledge, has given us access to oil paints and spray paints and acrylics and all these different brushes and all these pens and markers and anything you want in a blank canvas, and you can create anything on the blade that you can think of, and that's done through these editors, and just with, you know, creativity. The other boards, and again, I don't know them personally, but if you think about it, how they work is they have some basic structure of effects in place. So it's almost like a color by number type thing, where you still have to stay within the lines of what they can offer, and you can switch out colors and make changes here and there, but you're still going to be limited on those closed source boards to whatever the author of the page put there in terms of the lines, the shapes, etc. Because Proffieboard doesn't have that limitation, being open source, and the fact that you are flashing a completely unique OS, it just gives you so much more that you can do with it. So that's where, you know, if you want to think of some kind of crazy style on a blade, Proffieboard's going to let you do it. You can probably do some things nice on other boards, but you're never going to be able to have as much customization, just because they have to limit within parameters to make it work on the other stuff. And that's part of the hope of getting more and more out of the board, is some of what I try to cover. Let's see. Yeah, OS 6 is a huge jump forward, and I obviously, as I get some stuff done, I put it up. Frederick's got stuff he's working on that he keeps under wraps, and there's actually some other contributors that are working on some things. Obi-Rob Kenobi has his fork, but I think some of his stuff he's looking to come over. But what I actually have a laundry list. I showed it. Actually, it's been a minute. But I had a list of things that I was hoping to get done, and I'm more than 3/4 of the way down, but there's still more coming. And there's something I'm almost done with, but I didn't finish in time. But I'll probably have that coming out later this week. We did just put the ability to edit length, and that was a huge lift from Frederick. It was something that I was kind of chasing for a while. We actually were going one path, and then just working with him, we actually got it a different way. It does stem from the length finder style that Frederick had come up with, but what now you're going to be able to do is you're essentially going to be able to edit the length of your blade at any time and save it to the Saber, and that way if you do have multiple blades, and say you have a blade that's just a couple pixels shorter, or a blade that you don't know what the actual pixel count is, and you plug it in, you're going to be able to go into the edit mode. You're going to choose choose edit length, and then just turn your hilt, and there's a marker pixel. If you didn't see the video, that tells you when you get to the end, and you save that, and it sets that new length. And that's to me, it was a big help, because typically you had to know your pixel count and then update your config and then flash the board. Now you're going to be able to do it all from the Saber, so it takes out the need for that, both the need of knowing how many pixels is in this blade, but also the need to reflash the board every time you put a different blade on. There were ways around it. You could do the blade ID, which was the resistor method, and a few other things. But essentially, what you want is the now you don't need to worry about any of that unless you want to. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't see the question, but yeah, I mean, I have my test Saber that gets all the cool features first. I think I've probably flashed that sucker well over 6,000 or 7,000 times. So you can reflash your board as much as you want. I think I had asked Frederick forever ago if there is a technical limit, but I don't think you can hit that limit. But I mean, it's essentially you can flash to it as often as you want. And if you do something in a config and you make a mistake and you load it, you can just make the change and load again. Every once in a while, there are times where you'll have like a bad upload. It does happen occasionally, like if your data line gets disconnected or something. I actually had a Saber once sitting too close to the edge of the desk, and it started to roll, and I caught it, but the cable came out and it stopped the upload. You do want access to your boot and reset button. That way you can reset the board and have it fixed. But I hit boot and reset, hooked it right back up to the computer, finished the upload, and it was fine. So you can't really hurt the board by flashing. Hey, Brian, thanks for joining. Hey, Angel, I appreciate it. I do have a donate button on my library for anybody who's using the styles. Actually, when you load the page, I put this here, mostly, for hosting and then also building the library out. That's the easiest way to donate if you're so inclined. I do appreciate it. Anything anybody does obviously is welcome. But the library is open to everybody, so don't think that you're stuck doing so. But anybody who would like to donate, I put this button onto the library as the easiest method for that. I think there's ways through YouTube, but I'm still kind of a noob at YouTube, so I don't know how to do that yet. Let's see. Oh, Sam. Reflashing. Yeah, so when you're flashing your board, whatever config is in that sketch, when you upload it, that overwrites everything. Essentially, you're changing the operating system that exists on the board with the new one. So always back up. And most times, installers should be putting a copy of the config on your SD card. Leave that copy or make another copy of it. Make your edits in a second copy, and you're good to go. I mean, you can, with how fast stuff is changing with the OS, if you lose track of a config, as long as you have the basic idea of, what you're able to do in how it's wired up, so how many blades you have, what pins they're wired to, that kind of stuff. Those are the important pieces. Styles can easily be replaced. It's really the top section and that bottom blade config section. That's what's important when you're keeping track of your config. What happens in the presets, that gets changed so often, that I think has a little less need. Let's see. Oh, Meg Tooth answer. Yeah, I'm behind on the chat. Meg Tooth answering all these questions for me. No. So boot and reset is to put the board in bootloader, which essentially just makes it able to take an upload. You still have to do the upload through Arduino. The instance I was just speaking about came just because the upload didn't complete on my board. So if you don't complete the upload, there's no operating system that runs. The board kind of doesn't do anything. To fix that, that's what those two buttons on the board are for, and that essentially puts it back into bootloader mode so that you can hook back up to it and fix everything. I think you're Darth Vader. Thanks for joining. SLD, I'm a longtime member there. The OS 6, I think you mean, not V6, is not yet out yet. No, it's still actually a good amount of coding left on it. Big pieces are coming. Frederick's helped me out with a lot. I've got a lot of pieces lined up, but there's still more. You guys haven't seen everything yet. And then to be able to show stuff, I have to build it, and then I have to test it. So There is probably within the next couple of weeks, we should be hopefully getting to a point where we start talking about alpha testing, but that's still early in the equation. Let's see. Space on the board. Are you Tri Laser? Are you using the new plugin? Because the V2 plugin, Frederick just moved that to stable. That saves about 9-10% of memory. And then I see the chat filling up again. Megtooths beat me to the punch. Yeah, you can take out the diagnostic commands. You can also definitely POV. POV, I think when we tested that, I tested that with Space Window. I think when we pulled it out, that was like 10% or something of memory just for one style. If you're going to use it, great. But if you don't use it, take that out and you'll get a lot more space. OS 6, particularly with the inclusion of edit mode, should give more space because of what we're going to be able to do with edit mode. Now, it's still going to come down to the style. So if you have a ton of really custom styles, particularly styles that have like the multi-stage preons, a bunch of post-offs, a bunch of other crazy stacked effects, those just take up memory because they have a lot going on. But if you just have a lot of different styles, but they're all similar in structure, part of what edit mode is going to enable is for you to reuse those over and essentially save some memory. Whereas the old approach would be, if you wanted to have a blue blade and a red blade and a green blade, you'd have a blue copy, a red copy, and a green copy, thereby taking up 3 presets. Edit mode, one of the reasons that I was chasing edit mode is because it ends up being you save memory because it's the same style over, but it ends up still taking up space. So now with edit mode, you're only going to need one of, say, an audio flicker, one of a fire, one of an unstable, one of any of the styles, and then go in and using edit mode, you're going to be able to copy that style to another preset, make a new preset, and then edit all the colors individually. So you can have a unique base color, you can have unique blast, clash, lockup, everything will be editable, and it'll make it like it's a new preset, but it's actually running the same style. So in terms of the memory on the board, you're still only using the memory of one style, but you can roll it out to infinite number of presets with infinite number of mixes of your colors and everything like that. So it's going to really open up how much is possible. Now, there's still, since everything's still in development, it's hard to say how much memory we're going to give up for edit mode versus adding these features, but the trade-off should still work itself out to be a little bit more styles. And then again, with that V2 plugin, that is saving a lot of memory. It's a lot more efficient. You guys are chatting me up too fast. If I miss anybody, I apologize. I'm sliding behind. I think I'm going on to Smooth Jazz Family. Yeah, I have it up. Let me show you. I put this in for the OS 5 library. So I give names to all of my styles, partly so I can keep track of them, and partly just because that's part of the fun of them. So they're going to match the order in this dropdown. But if you know the name of them, you can just look through this list. They are grouped together. So you have your standard, you have your unstable group, you're going to have your electric, I forget what I call that, etc. And then some of the unique ones are going to be towards the bottom, moving all the way down. But these are just really quick. You could find something, click on it, and it jumps right to it. So I had added that. You can do Control F. I think Brian said that if you wanted to. Control F gives you a search box that'll look within the page, and you can do a search that way. But the drop down at the top, and if you're down here, if you've moved down the page, just click this little, I'm covering it with your question. If you just click the top button, it'll take you back up top, and then you can use this search again and quickly jump to any of the styles you want. And then the last little piece too is you're able to, if you want to remember a style, if you click on the name of any of the styles, it has an anchor link in it, which will then, you can bookmark this to your browser, or you can copy it and send it to somebody else. So I tried to make it easy because the library has gotten a lot longer, which is a great thing, but in getting longer, it also means you have to look through more. Yeah, color editing is going to be a huge one. It's taken a while, but the new features, and there's actually more you guys haven't seen yet. I'm still working on it. It's not done. As Frederick's able to work on the parts that I need his help with, I'm switching gears to get that stuff done. So color editing, there's still more that hasn't been seen yet that's in the works. So hopefully in the next, maybe by next week, if I have the time, there'll be more to see. Let's see, filter. Yeah, you can filter by type also in the library. Hey, Kim, thanks for joining. I mentioned you earlier, you and Brian. I don't know if you were here, Brian, either. I did at the top mention that you guys were able to mimic the style. This guy here. I didn't show the code on it yet. So I think Brian knows this, but Kim, since you were able to mimic this, I didn't get to tell you. This is a precursor to something else that doesn't exist yet. So there's more coming on this, but you guys were able to mimic that from last week. Yeah, electro staff. Drop down wasn't showing on the screen. Oh, let me go back up, see if it's with the. Oh, that's weird. It shows on my screen, but it doesn't show on the playback. This is a drop down, and it has a long running list, but for whatever reason, it doesn't show on the playback. But there is a drop down there to let you choose the names. Megtooth has some videos. There's a number of videos out there. In all honesty, the manual to me is the easiest. That would be to me. I mean, some people are better with I guess video explanation. I like seeing the directions in a specific order with everything just spelled out, and then you just do your step at a time. Videos can sometimes be, you can lose track of something to me in a video. So I would say get a hold of the manual. And it's, Dimitri just did an update, but it's around page 27. If you go to the index in the beginning, it'll tell you what page, but you just look up the uploading to your board, and it has every step and all the information with screenshots of what you need to do, just step by step. That's, to me, the easiest to do. And then ask the questions in the group. If you, the Proffieboard support group, the open source group, everybody in there who's in this chat now is able to help as well. Cool. Yeah, POV, it takes up a lot of memory, but it's a pretty cool one. Sneak peeks. Yeah, I do have something almost done. I did not get it done for tonight, but in tomorrow-ish, Thursday, some point before the weekend, I hope to have another update in video for you guys for another sneak peek. I'm just putting the finishing touches on some stuff. Hey, Cole, thanks for joining. If I missed anybody when you joined, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but I also seem to be going off on too many tangents. Yeah, the find a style, I threw that in. For whatever reason, the drop-down doesn't show up on this playback, but it lists everything when you click it on my screen, not what you're seeing now. But if you go try it out for yourself, you can run through the whole list. And anytime, also, I don't know if you probably won't see it, but anytime I add something new, let's go back up top, I do tag it with new in the front of it. Although that's getting a little outdated because some of these that say new are been around for a little while. Yeah, Brian, good segue for me. Yes, we are. That's where I was actually going. And I did go off on some tangents. Let me switch gears. If you have questions, put them in. I will try to get to them, but I did say we were going to cover this. Where did I go? There it is. So you missed the intro on is less than, Brian, but I think that we're still not so far along that you should be okay. So if you're joining now and you missed the beginning, I'm trying to pick up where I left off without confusing too many people. But is less than is a function. It essentially only returns a 0 or a 32,768 based on if the value f is less than value v. So if it is less than, that comes back as 32,768. If it isn't less than, then it's going to come back as a 0. So the easiest way to see it, because I actually lose track sometimes and I have to throw it together, is in a mix. So right now, I have the value of an int of 13,001, which is obviously not less than 13,000. So what I'm seeing is this red color. If I drop this number, so we'll just do any number technically less than 13,000, and then I look at the mix. Now it's going to be blue. So what is less than is usually a piece to something else. You wouldn't really use it in this specific method because you could also just not have it there. But what we do with is less than is you're going to see it in a lot of the styles that have a lot of movement that's tied to blade angle, twist angle, or swing speed. And the idea is to let you limit what comes back. So particularly like an effect like swing speed. So let's go put a swing speed in here. And I'm throwing this stuff together. It's not meant to look good. It's more to be teaching. But so with swing speed, you do have, I'm going to pump the swing speed up. So swing speed is literally based on how fast you're swinging your blade. It's going to do an effect over another. In the emulator, it always just goes back and forth. It's essentially just going up and down. But it's what's happening is you're getting this smooth transition all the time. And what ends up happening, and this is related to the enhanced swing in the library, is that when you are swinging your blade, right, as soon as you move faster than 0, as soon as you have any movement, it's going to start to mix these two colors together. So what you get on those swing effects is you get the swing effect to start taking over the second you move your blade, which in some effects looks good, but in other effects, it's actually doesn't fit with what you're trying to do. Particularly for a lot of the swing effects, what I try to do with the swing effects is make them seem like you are literally moving it so fast that it's heating up the air around it, therefore getting brighter, whiter. In the case of the flame blade that I did, the real flame, it actually goes into a yellow-blue, as if you were really, like, I had seen a video, someone swinging those, I forget the name, but it's like a fire dancer, and they've got those things on fire. It's almost like a mace. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name, but at any rate, in the video, he's swinging it, and when it's standing still, it's doing kind of a normal flame effect, but as it picks up speed, it's actually turning into this yellowish blue fire, and that's because the oxygen's adding to it and all that. But at any rate, I wanted to do something like that, and I wanted the swing effects to be like that, but normal swing speed ends up starting right away, but you really want it to pick up speed. So what we do is we have to account for not picking up at a lower speed. And this is going to be kind of broken up. But what we're going to do is I'm going to add to this swing speed, and I'm going to add an is less than. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give it, so we'll say if it's less than, and again, you always have to deal in the 0 to 32,768. So let's say swing speed is 400. What that means is when you hit 400, that's 32,768. That means if you're swinging at 200, it's going to return 16,384. So we're going to go with the 16,384 value, and we'll submit this. And now what will happen is you're going to get this blink instead of the, and the reason for it, what's actually happening is that it's returning only 0 or 32,768 based on the speed. So if we're, oh wow, I totally missed the chat, guys. Chat's getting really long over there. Sorry, let me finish this train of thought, and I'm going to try to catch back up to chat. I just caught out of the corner of my eye. You guys are going off. Looks like Meg2's got everybody. So Meg2 is the one who got me into Proffi, so he knows what he's talking about. So he's definitely a great help right now. But let me finish this train of thought because I already gone off on tangents. So what we're doing here is anytime the swing speed is less than 16,384, which means essentially translates to 200 or less, it's going to return 32,768. So it's going to return the blue color. Anytime it's greater than that amount, it's going to return the red. So what this would do if you were really swinging is when you swing really fast, as soon as you pass that 200 threshold, your blade's going to change instantly. But if you notice, we don't get the smooth effect because it's less than is essentially an on-off switch. It can only do one or the other. So if we just pull this back for 1 second and just change it to swing speed, again, you'll notice it's going to have a much smoother movement. So what you're getting is you're getting this smooth movement because it's using, so when your speed is at 50, it's doing this value. When it's at 200, it's doing 16,384. When you're at 300, you're 3/4 of 32,768. When you're at 400, you're at 37,668. So that gives you a much more smooth movement, Whereas the is less than, because it is one or the other, is only going to return 0 or 32,768. So that's going to give you that blinking. So how we fix this, and this goes with other functions too. You can also do it on blade angle. So if we wanted to swap this out, it would work the same with blade angle. So you'll see blade angle again, it's a little slower movement, but as the blade angle changes, so with 32,768 when being pointing up and 0 pointing down, as you moved your blade, it would flip. As soon as you got past parallel, this would flip from red to green, or from red to blue. But if you want to smooth that out, what you're going to do is you're going to actually scale it. And hopefully I haven't lost everybody, but so we're going to throw a scale onto this now. And by scaling it, it gives me the ability to actually add some other parameters in. So let's scale that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do int 0 at 0. But now when we pass that threshold, I'm going to do blade angle. So now what will happen, as soon as it catches up with us, submitted it, right? There it is. Yeah. So what's happening here is it's now by adding this scale, when it's 0, so when it's not less than 32,768, it's going to return a 0. When it then gets over, or when it gets over the 16,384, I'm sorry, it then goes and it returns 0. Let's flip this. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to flip that. Because it's a scale, I want it backwards. So now what'll happen, that's what I wanted. So now as it, again, it's going to go back and forth. It's going to do the fade, but it's not necessarily as smooth as you'd like, right? So, and then it's going to fade itself back down, and that's matching the blade angle, and then you're going to see a hard jump. And that hard jump is because now we've moved above the 16,384. So what's happening is by adding the scale, we added a scale, and what the scale is doing is it's actually going to return 2 values. Now in order to make this work, what we want to do now is we actually want to add a scale onto this, and this is where it might get a little more complicated, and this is where some math will come in. So I'm going to guesstimate, but I'm going to scale the blade angle, and what I want to do is I want to give it extra room to move. And this is going to be kind of dirty. I would quick and dirty. I would do the math to get above this threshold. But if we submit it this way, now what we should get is a smoother transition all the way through. Oops, what did I miss? I missed some number. I want you. You're good. It should have done what I wanted. 0. Oh, let me try this. I think I did that one wrong, actually. I was thinking of something else. Let's see if that's what I was after. No hard jump, right? Still got the hard jump. All right, I messed something up, and now I want you. Yeah. No, that's right. That's right. This should be returning 0, and this should be. Let me try. I got to do math, I guess. I'm using my calculator. Let me try putting in this value. Oh, that's what it is. I got to go the other way. I didn't go the right way. All right, I'll try to explain it if this works. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to scrap it and start over because I somewhere messed myself up. Still doing a jump. Something is not. It's better. All right, I'm gonna cheat because I've done the math before and I'm messing up somehow. It shouldn't have a jump at the end here. This is it's close. Let's go use my old friend. Let's just grab a style. Sorry for this. I thought I had it all figured out, but it's been a little while. Let's go to swing effects. Let's just do a white swing, enhanced, and this will show me the code I'm looking for. Let's put it in a new window. All right, there it is. That's what I want. This is you. What did we do, right? Oh, that's right. It's proportional. I missed that piece. All right. So, oh, that's harder to explain. All right. So, is less than is taking me down a road that is going a little off the tracks on us. Let's get a clean window. All right. So let's do again a mix. And I will get to the chat. Oh man, I'm behind. You guys, hopefully, I'm going to try to get you guys caught up. All right. So now we're smoothing this out with a scale. I'm going to scale you. And I want to go, so I need to go 16,384, 4912, 4952. So I need to go to so moving should be going negative. No, I missed something. Oh, it helps when you put the int in front. Need to put this in. And we're going to scale you. That should be what we wanted. There it is. Okay, so let me explain. I got lost on myself. So what we're doing, right? So what we're trying to do is when the blade angle is, so right here, when the blade angle is less than 13,684. So anytime, which would be when it's essentially facing down to parallel, it's going to return this scaled value. Now, because we're pointing down, that was the problem. What I have to do is I have to scale it to actually go further down than 0 so that it can move its way back up. So what I did was because we're trying to get this full range, I'm actually moving it down negative 32,768, because what's going to happen is for the entire time where it's 0 here, which means that it's not visible, it's actually going to be less than 0. And then as soon as it flips to that parallel position and starts moving, it then is actually at 0, and that's what allows for that smooth fade. So when you're using an is less than, if you want to smooth it out, you're going to scale the is less than, but then you also have to scale the value. You also have to scale the value you're trying to return, unless you want that hard jump. So I do have it built into the enhanced swing speed. The math on that was already done. But so what's going to happen here is means that it's still pointing up, and now it's moving down, and you get that smooth transition. And it's only if you want that smooth movement, again, because is less than is going to be a jarring thing. It's either it is or it isn't, so it's going to flip 0 to 32,768 by putting a scale around the is less than, and then also scaling the return value. That's how you're able to make it do these more smooth fades. What would happen in reality when using this blade is while it is pointing up, it's going to just, so anywhere from parallel and up, it's going to stay red. And then as soon as we move below parallel and slide it down, it's going to slowly transition from the blue to red. Now, blade angle has some other features with it where you could actually also just trim how much room is, how much is going to be returned. But things like swing speed don't. So it comes into play with swing speed and other things. But blade angle just was what I pulled up. But if you rewind this and watch it, you're going to see there's a scale around the is less than. And then within the is less than, the first value of that scale is essentially returning a scaled version of the same function, but it's going to be meant to be over a longer scale so that it can be moving while you don't see it. And then once you start seeing it, it picks up right where the visibility should be and continues on. And then you flip the other one to 0 so that it doesn't do anything. Hopefully that made sense. I think I may have confused some people because I confused myself. But let me catch the chat because time is moving on me, and I do have a pretty hard stop at 10. Oh, wow. Hopefully I didn't miss. I'm going to pick right up here. Oh, we got a bunch of new people in. Hey, William, thanks for joining. Hey, Kale. Hellraiser, Rob. Thomas Miller. Let me catch right here. All right, so hopefully you saw this. Yes, scale is in the editor, Megtooth. It is a function, so it works with other functions, but I probably could have done a better job explaining it. I shouldn't have got myself tied up like that. But essentially, what scale does is it lets you take one function and actually change what it's doing. And you can either reduce the range, you can actually invert the range, or you can stretch out the range. So what we did here is we actually stretched out the range so that it does this little bit smoother transition. Yeah, learning the Proffieboard. So there seems to be a lot of chat, and I think between Brian and everybody and Megtooth answering, it is different, and there is a learning curve. But if the manual to me is still the best option, but there's a ton of videos. Megtooth has videos. There's videos. Just do a search for programming Proffieboard, and there's probably a couple dozen that come up. Whatever the easiest way for you to learn is. The thing that I try to tell everybody as often as I can is if you get stuck somewhere, if you don't understand something, if you get a compile error, just post in the open source group, the Proffieboard support group, or obviously on the TRA forum. And somebody can help you. Most people in the chat who are using Proffieboard, they started where you are now. I started where you are now. And it's basically, I learned by asking questions and having other people answer me. And then when I had enough knowledge, people would ask the same questions, and then I would be able to answer them. And it kind of pays itself forward. But there's a lot of helpful people. But it is different. So if you're coming from the other boards, the terrible Golden Harvest or the CFX or anything else, I was talking about a little bit earlier. Those boards are closed source. They're you basically go in and edit some stuff in a text file and you have it. With Proffieboard, at least there right now, you're programming the board. Essentially, you're creating your own custom OS and you're flashing that operating system to the board. So when you put your config together with styles from my library, styles you make, styles you learned how to make here, even just the default stuff, that's actually just like a recipe for all the effects you want. And it builds out this operating system that then does all of that. And it's completely custom and completely unique. And it can do so much more because of that. But it is different. You're not just going in and typing in a number 2 in some text file and having something blink twice instead of 3 times. You're actually you are programming. But in the case of my library, is I've done a lot of the heavy lifting. Unless you want to go off and create custom stuff, you can grab the styles from the library. You're just going to copy, paste it in your config, and upload, and it does everything for you. The reason I do these videos is to kind of teach people to do more, and also to give people the opportunity to be as creative as they want. You know, the whole point of the library, I've said multiple times, is kind of just a look of what I've come up with. It's not meant to be the end all be all, because there's an unlimited amount of possibilities. So people can take some of the stuff from the library, they can take some of the stuff they learned from these videos, they can take stuff they come up with on their own, put it all together, and get something really cool and really custom. And like Brian did his, why can't I think of the name of it, Portal style recently. I've seen a few other new styles people are putting together. That's the whole great thing about Proffieboard, is you can be creative, you can think of something, and you can make it happen. But in order to do so, you do have to follow some steps, which are in the manual. And if you get stuck, you do have to ask some questions. Let's see. I think I went off on a long rant again. I've been doing that a good amount. Specific spot on the board. Miller, Bruce, your question on... So the manual has all the pinouts and the wiring diagrams. That's probably your best place to figure out what you're soldering to. You definitely want to make sure you're hooking the right thing up to the right place. Drill a new hole in your, I'm guessing you mean your hilt. Depends on the equipment you have. Hilts are round. If you try to do that by hand without like a vise or a drill press, might be tricky. But I mean, you can drill if it's an aluminum hilt or something, probably. I would say the Saber Builders Academy might be a little bit better to help you there, particularly if you're a new builder. Those guys are pretty helpful. Let's see. So yeah, I do have, so there's, if you haven't kept up, oops, wrong, there it is. On my channel, I put together this proof of concept playlist. This is where I'm putting all the new stuff. Am I covering it with the chat, Thomas? Sorry. So as I add new features, I'm putting them into this playlist. And obviously the newer ones will be at the end of the playlist, because there's a list of stuff that has been developed, is being developed. I don't tell until I get, typically, like I have ideas and then I bounce them off Frederick. Some of them are good, some of them not so much, some of them are a little too crazy. And then he kind of gives me, in some cases, he'll give me the code to make something work. In other cases, he'll give me a nudge in the right direction to make it work. And then I go and try to make it work. But not everything pans out. Sometimes something could be a really good idea, and then you actually even get it physically in place, and then you're like, not so good. So I don't usually say something until I have it working and I'm happy with it. But there is more stuff. There's more stuff. I do have a good amount of work done on. It's just not ready yet. But the latest one was the edit length. Edit mode is going to be a big piece of OS 6. So that's where a lot of my efforts have been. But I do have stuff related to styles and functions. I just haven't spent as much time on them because, to me, edit mode it's twofold. Edit mode is going to let us do so much more with Proffi, all from the Saber, but it also will make it a little more accessible for new people. It's never going to take the place of uploading, because you can upload so many unlimited things. There's no way to account for that with an edit mode. But what edit mode is that if you upload something that you're really happy with, and then all of a sudden you just want to make a small change, you're going to be able to do it on the Saber instead of needing to go hook back up to the computer. And that's really the goal of it, is just to, it's meant to be that kind of editing between uploads. I mean, when we're done with it, you're going to have just so many capabilities. So there is a lot more coming for it. That's part of the reason it's taking so long, is it's actually a pretty big amount of stuff being added. But most everything that I've added is going to be in this playlist on my channel, which is for OS 6 that I have. Frederick has his own stuff, and there's a few other contributors. I can't show their stuff because it's not mine. Let's see. Yeah, battle mode. Choreography mode is tied to battle mode. That's going to be in there. I'm still actually have a little more work to do on that one. And hopefully, yeah. Sorry, Brian. I got mixed up. I actually started to talk about it at the beginning of the episode. I got off on a tangent. I tried to circle back. I lost my place. If I confuse the heck out of you, we'll try to cover it again next week. I need to do a little more prep work. I thought I could pull that one all out of memory, but obviously I got a little lost. So we can always circle back to it again. Pre-on effects, they do show an editor. You just have to click a different button. I don't think I grabbed a style with Pre-on. Let me apply a Pre-on to this. So the way, because Pre-on is dependent upon your sound font, the editor can't really account for that. But if we go here, oops, I gotta grab the whole style. So let's turn it off. So you're going to turn it off, and then there is a pre-on button, and this will let you preview your pre-on. But the timing, so the way the pre-on works on your actual Saber is that if you have a pre-on wave, it's going to play, and the second that the sound effect ends, your blade's going to ignite. And for that reason, you do have to do, at least in OS 5.7, you will want to trim up the pre-on. And I have a couple crash courses. I've also covered this in some of the previous episodes. You just edit the pre-on effect timings, which is all transition. So it's usually one of your last styles. It's going to be made up of a number of transitions, and these transitions all together come up to the time that it will run for. So you would edit these. But for previewing, you just click the pre-on button with the Saber off, and then that's how you preview it. But it's going to be based on what your actual font has in it and how long that pre-on wave file is in that font. OS 6, there is a fork that Brian has shown in some places. Obi-Rob Kenobi has a fork that has a wavelength function that actually times out your effects to the actual length of the sound. That's going to be part, I believe, part of OS 6, at least my understanding. And then there's actually a few other things coming in OS 6 that are also going to be related to that. But they're not ready yet, so I can't share that yet. But there's going to be other, OS 6 will handle pre-ons a little bit differently, a little bit better probably. Let's see. Oh, cool. Yeah, that one was from a while back. I am terrible at spinning. First of all, like the Graflex and the MPP, those and the crossguard, I don't know. I don't know anybody who can spin them, and if you can, great, because those damn control boxes make it so hard to move in your hand. But I'm also just not that skilled at it. My main focus is making the blades look good, and then obviously the costuming with the 501st. Some of the spinning and the flare and the effect, just the handling of the sabers that some of those guys do on the channels, I can't do that. I can't even pretend to do that. I feel like I'd probably end up with a lightsaber through a window or something. But yeah, that was the idea of the aerodynamic heating of a lot of those really unique swing effects, is if you can get that blade really moving for a really long time at a really high speed, it does some really cool stuff. So my demo videos don't necessarily show it off the best, and that's just a lack of ability on my side. So I had started, Brian, and it got really hard to do really fast, and then also just time. It's not something I've given up on, but it's also like way back on the super far back burner in a kitchen behind the shed. It's maybe one day. It gets tricky. Part of the difficulty comes from how fast the OS is getting updated, and who's going to be responsible for a style that gets outdated too quickly. And the other part of it is the library now is essentially, it's more than just a library. It actually builds the styles for you based on what you're choosing. But in order to make it work with guest styles, it was going to be a nightmare, because if you have one thing different in your style than how my scripts are written, it's not going to accept it. And then the final pieces of the puzzle is, and I hate to say it, a lot of styles right now are about to get blown up with what's coming. So it also kind of seemed moot to try to put a lot of time into OS 5 styles when OS 6 is going to do a whole lot more in a whole lot of different ways. So more to come on that, but maybe one day there'll be something like that. But it was something I was thinking about for a little while, but it got kind of moved to the back burner for for a bit. Thanks. Yeah, edit mode. I'm excited to get it out there, and there's more coming. But it's going to be. I think it'll be a bit. First of all, I think it'll be really helpful for a lot of people. Secondly, it's. I just think it's going to open the door. So, I mean, there are people who, for whatever reason, I've seen just they don't want to try Proffi because they've either heard nightmare stories or they've got false information, and for whatever reason, they're scared of the programming side of it, and you know, sometimes that fear maybe is warranted. Maybe you've had a bad experience. Maybe you're just not good with computers. You're not good with that type of stuff. To me, that shouldn't limit you though from the fun to me of what Proffieboard offers. So what I'm hoping out of edit mode, first and foremost is obviously just being able to do this stuff. But secondly, maybe there's a couple people out there who have been like so hesitant to even think about Proffieboard just because of the computer side of it. When edit mode's out there, if you have a good reputable installer, and that's first and foremost, who can put something together for you, but then you want to tweak it, that's where edit mode's going to come in. So if you have all the styles you want and they get loaded up, but then you go and buy some new fonts, or you want to change a track, or you want to change colors on something, or you don't like the blast color being this color, that's where it's going to come into play, where you don't need to send that back to your installer. You don't need to hook it up to the computer, as long as, again, there's limitations. The style has to be there. If the style isn't on your board, you don't have access to it. We can't do anything about it. But if you have, 15, 20 styles on your Saber that you really love, but then you want to do it in green, but you want that blast to be yellow instead of, Navajo white or something like that, that's where edit mode's going to come, is you're going to be able to take that preset, make a copy of it. The other big piece of it, which to me, actually, it's so long ago, I forget about it, the ability, you don't have to, the fonts now, as long as you just load a font on your SD card, the edit fonts capability and the edit track capability on the Proffieboard, it scans the SD card by itself. You don't have to reference anything. So if you buy a new font, now the font has to be in the right format, but if you put a new font on your SD card and you go into edit mode, that font's going to be accessible, and you're going to be able to choose that font from the menu and save it to the preset without doing your config and without having to go and make all these changes. You're not limited to the name. So it's not like you have to stick this, if you want this font to be in for preset 1, you have to name it. It's going to be, as long as it's within the syntax required for Proffi, you're going to be able to just put that font, put that track on your SD. The OS is going to scan for it, find it, and let you choose it. And that to me was a big one. And that was so long ago that I forget that that's one of the, to me, like, super impressive features. And of course, thanks to Frederick for making that possible. But that's going to be awesome. But then the ability to change the colors, so change the base color. Color change can only change everything at once. The color editing is going to be by blade, by effect. So you're going to be able to, have all the editing done on the Saber without having to go crazy. So there's being able to do that, I think, is going to open the door for more people who are a little more hesitant to do the computer side. My hope, though, is eventually they learn it, because obviously OS 6 isn't going to be the last OS, and there's going to be new stuff coming out even after that. So you're still going to eventually want to update. But with OS 6, with edit mode, you should be able to get a Saber with a lot of really cool stuff and still tweak it out to your personal liking. And that's where I'm kind of going after. Yeah, one button's been asked of me a good amount. Oh, time is running away. I'm going to try to finish out this chat for you guys, and then I'm going to have to jump out. Yeah, I've actually gotten this question, I think, through the channel. I had a couple people message me. I've seen it in a few other places. I've actually had a couple of installers reach out to me too, and I forget your name. I apologize. One button can do a lot. I design and I think in the mind of two button, because if you think about it, so when you have two buttons, it's actually almost 3 times the amount of controls as if you have one button, because when you have one button, that's it. When you have two buttons, you can do that button, you can do the other button, or you can do those buttons together. So in terms of, permutations or combinations, whatever the heck I learned in 7th, 8th grade math, you just get so many more options having that second button. And because of all the features, and I mean, there's more. When we get to the one buttons, we may not be there yet. The gestures have opened up a lot of doors, but at the same time, you're still going to hit a point where if you have one button, you might have to drop some features because there's just no way for the Saber to do all of it with one. Two buttons should carry you through a lot longer. Now, part of the other piece of edit mode that I was chasing is taking a lot of the functions that you don't necessarily use while you're using your Saber just in normal usage and compressing them into that new menu system. So it will free up some buttons, but again, on one button, you might be limited in what you can even do in edit mode. So I'm going to leave that to the other guys because I've already spent so long on this. But one button, if you have the option, if you're looking to get a new Saber, if you're looking to do Proffieboard and you want it to be future-proof for the foreseeable future, I would go after two button. If you have a one-button Saber, SA22C and Shock have done a great job with their one button. And again, when all the OS 6 stuff is ready, they'll get a hold of it and they'll be able to adapt it into their one button. And I'm sure they're going to be able to, move stuff around and make some stuff work. But you're still might hit a point where, all right, if I want to do this, I have to give up that just because of the button limitation. But since I don't do the one buttons that often, it's hard for me to say what, but it'll be, there may be some limits coming as more and more stuff gets added. Let me just catch up. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody. I'll try to catch you guys next week. I do have to cut out. So, I mean, yeah, you could. Edit mode will let you view the Saber, all the colors on the Saber. And the other piece of the color editing is the ability to mix in whites and blacks. Now, black probably wouldn't go your way. Rose gold, I guess, I mean, in theory, as long as the pixels can put out that color combination, I'm rose gold. I don't know quite what that would look like, but it should. You would find it via the dial. To get to brighter colors, you'd probably mix in a little bit of white. But part of it, I mean, you're still dealing with the limitation of what the LEDs can actually produce. So you're dealing with an RGB. So there's still some colors might be not entirely attainable, but you should be able to dial that into a close enough color. Or you can also just pick your color picker. So I'm just going to clear this out. Let me grab one of these guys. You can go in here and you can play around in this rose gold. That's I'm not sure what that would look like, actually. I'm having a hard time picturing that. Maybe it's probably too big. But you can pick anything in here, and it's going to give you the RGB value. And you would actually be able to, so you can go into the editor, pick this specific color, put that specific color in your style, and just have it. Edit mode will let you get to any of these colors, but if you know the exact combo of RGB, you'd be able to do it. Yeah, color zoom so the color zoom is going to be on color change. Color editing kind of took the zoom concept, and I'm still tweaking it out. It's actually going to be a dynamic dial, so that small, very slow, precise moves will be very slow, and then really big moves will be really large jumps. I'm still working in the color editing menu. I'm not done with it yet, and part of it is that dynamic control. Part of it is a few other things that you guys don't know about yet. Let's see. Okay, halfway between a pink and gold. Wash out red. Again, it's going to be limited by what the pixels can put out more than anything. But again, if you found an RGB color, you could probably throw it in and see what it looks like. Oh, I missed your, the Teensy Saber sharing thread. Forever ago, Brian. Sorry, I missed, it's probably a little dusty in there, but it's still there. Kim, sorry, no homework this week. I didn't get to everything I was hoping to. But you did a great job last week. Okay, everybody's signing out anyway for me. Thanks, guys. Oh, no punishment, Brian. I was busy and I didn't get to do as much prep as I wanted to, as you can tell from my presentation of Islistan. I'll try. I do have other styles that I hope to show you guys. My focus right now is I'm trying to get the OS 6 stuff as far along as I can so that we can start looking at maybe alpha testing in the future-ish. I don't want to say near future because that puts a lot of pressure. But so I'm pretty much head down when I have the time, trying to get stuff done. And so some of the style stuff I just haven't been focusing on as much. But once it's all done, there will be more style stuff coming. So, but thanks everybody for joining tonight. Sorry, I probably was a little disjointed in my presentation, but hopefully you learned a little something. And then obviously keep an eye out. I do have at least one new thing to show at some point this week when it's finished, maybe two if I get the time, but lots more coming. So appreciate everybody who joined tonight. Again, if you have a question and I didn't get to cover it or I missed it, just shoot me another message, or let me know ahead of time and we can try to cover it next week. But hope you all have a great night, and keep an eye out for some cool stuff coming. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.